それではただいまより
We'd now like to begin the press conference. My name is Mori, in charge of public relations. Well, today there were 3 points that were discussed. First we had the questioning hearing of Mr. Edano, and also the Article 12. Excuse me. Yes. Mr. Banri KAIEDA's hearing, and also there was the Article 12 requesting for documents, and also lastly we have tried to summarize the points that this commission needs to address. And therefore I'd like to first call upon Mr. Kurokawa to make some comments, and then after open the floor to the press. Well, at our commission today, we had as witness Mr. Banri KAIEDA, member of the House of Representatives, former Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry. Mr. KAIEDA, from January to September of 2011, has served as the Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, and has addressed the nuclear accident. We today asked about his responsibility as Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, and also how METI and NISA had tried to address with the aftermath of the accident. I'm sorry, I earlier misstated the 13th, but it's 14th. Well, today at the hearing, there were a number of things that came to light. As for the awareness of the accident, there was a delay of the emergency situation. He said that he felt responsibility for this delay. And the reason for the delay was that it took time to receive the consent understanding of the Prime Minister. Also, as for the Prime Minister's Khan's visit to Fukushima, how this was realized, he did not know how this happened, and also he did not know about the purpose of this visit. And also, as for the, he said that it was he himself who received a phone call from President Shimizu as to the people leaving the Fukushima Daiichi and moving to Fukushima Dai-2. And he says that the term withdraw was not used, but the fact that President Shimizu made the call himself, Mr. KAIEDA says he interpreted this to have a heavy meeting. And also, as for the venting, well, he said that he felt that TEPCO was reluctant about the venting and also injection. And also he said that he felt there was reluctance on the part of TEPCO as to decommission units 5 and 6. And therefore, and that is the reason why he ordered the venting to take place to endorse the private sector, private operator to carry out its work based on the Nuclear Regulation Act. And now, as for the operator's awareness of its responsibility, I think it was not clear. And also after the accident, at the site of the accident, and also the Prime Minister's office and the TEPCO head office, he said that the communication was not proper, and instead it was like a relay game where the communication was being transferred from one to the other in steps. Also, He said that as for the government's preparedness, he said was not sufficient, and also he said that Speedy and others should have been used. Also, he said that no one was thinking that a hydrogen explosion would occur, or he said that the fact that the hydrogen explosion could not be avoided was something that Japan needs to learn from. And he says that this is something that the lessons are from 3 Mile or maybe Chernobyl. This has to be double-checked, but was not fully learned. As for the stress test, at the time of the introduction of the stress test, he said that they were considering the stress test as a prerequisite for restart, but had it been that the back test had been required as a prerequisite instead, this could have led to an earlier stress test, restart. But this was not something that he could not think of back then. And also, I think the earlier was 3 Mile Island lesson. As for the regulatory agency or the emergency response system, again, Mr. KAIEDA made some comments. He said that in case of an emergency, the response organization needs to be slim, and each and every individual has to have good understanding of his or her responsibility. He said that NISA could not live up to the expectations of the Japanese people. As for the regulatory agency, it needs to be independent and also needs to ensure safety. In the event of an accident, the agency has to be well equipped with people and machinery to respond to radiation, and also have an emergency squad in place to respond. I'm sure that there are a number of things that have been addressed, but also, we at our commission decided to request of certain entities to submit to us certain documents under our commission article 12.1. We also at our commission tried to put together those points that we think need to be addressed by this commission, and including these points, we would like to continue our discussion and also, if necessary, further expand our agenda. This is all from my side. Thank you.
Well, we'd like to receive the questions from the press. If you could please give your name and the name of your publication. We would like to give you the microphone. If you could please wait. The lady in the middle, please. Well, with regard to Article 12, I'm Mori from Asahi Shimbun. With regard to the provisioning of information, this would not be disclosed, but you will be requesting that these be submitted. At the very least, what sort of documents and materials are you asking for? If you can be very broad in that explanation. Another point has to do with today's discussion with regard to evacuation and the withdrawal, the retreat of these personnel. Mr. Katsumata and today's Mr. KAIEDA had some conflicting thoughts with regard to this. What did you think about that on the part of the Commission? Well, as far as the Commission is concerned, based on our agenda, as you can see, we said we could not disclose this information because under this law under which we operate, we've conducted our operations and our activities, so it's not a good thing for us to disclose that at this stage. And therefore, we looked at the materials, but we were not able to share them with you. I do understand what you're saying. Of course, I'll be thinking more about this. We need to think about, of course, the parties that need to submit this information as well. And what was the other point with regard to withdrawal? The retreat. We're not really sure what will be unfolding. We're listening to various important figures speak about these matters. If you felt that way, if you go to the website, you can confirm these points, and you can confirm and then write about it based on what you've been able to confirm. If you say it's different from what Mr. Katsumata said and from what Mr. Matsunaga said, then you can confirm that and then write it up. Well then, the fourth row, the person in the middle, wearing the gray suit, please.
Nishimura from Hokkaido Shimbun newspaper. I have two questions about the document submission. What sort of procedures will be carried out? Will the Secretariat ask the entity to submit the documents, or are you going to go through the Diet Joint Commission? Well, the Secretariat will be making the request. Also, secondly, well, Mr. KAIEDA is a politician, so I think his position is different from the other witnesses. But aside from his responsibility as a minister at that time, I think there is political responsibility. Are you going to refer to this in your final report? Well, it could be, but I think that discussion is still ongoing. Well, we did talk about that at the Diet at the beginning, well, the reason why I took up this statement that he made on June 18th, I thought that it was not just the minister who made that statement, but there were people backing this up. And that is the reason why I took this up. Thank you.
On the left-hand side, please. I've come from Factor, the monthly magazine. My name is Miyajima. From Dr. Nomura, there was an explanation about telephone calls going into the cockpit of an aircraft that is about to crash. As far as Dr. Nomura is concerned, whether it be Mr. Yoshida or supporting Mr. Yoshida, those people who supported him, he asked his questions of Mr. Yoshida and those who supported him. I understood it as such. And for Mr. Yoshida, who was the most responsible there on site, perhaps there might be a way in which we can hear from him. If he cannot make it, then the number 2 person could come and be a witness and testify. I felt that this might be a good thing. What do you think of that? And with regard to Mr. KAIEDA, and between him and Mr. Shimizu, there's a difference of opinion. It seems as if Mr. Shimizu, his health has recovered. So therefore, we need to have Mr. Shimizu come and speak, because it seems as if they have conflicting thoughts. Hearing what Mr. KAIEDA had said, it seems as if only 3 words were remembered. And was it a retreat, and was it everyone? Those are words that need to be made clear, because this is the commission that's dealing with the accident investigation. So are you not considering that? How shall I say this? With regard to this analogy with the aircraft that is about to crash, that is, the company that manufactures and the company that operates are separate. So who is the responsible one? That becomes the question. In actuality, what sort of history has there been at the aircraft company, the airline company, in operating that? That's such an analogy. So how do the people on site feel about this? And you were talking about tactics as well. Excuse me. We went to the United States recently, and the operators, they have said that even if the president comes, that the responsible parties will state that they are the responsible people at those power stations. And another point with regard to President Shimizu, of course we're considering that, regarding President Shimizu, to have him come and testify. The people on site have been saying the same things. The responsibility of the person who was the head on site, that's something that they've been talking about quite a lot. Then you finished with the investigation into the on-site personnel and how they felt about this matter and how things unfolded. This is something that's being broadcasted on the internet. So there's been 71 people who were left there at Fukushima Daiichi. So we need to really figure out what they were really going through. And they will be exempted in terms of having to take responsibility. So we need to be able to hear what they have to say. Isn't this a good idea? Well, we are conducting our hearings as well and going to the United States as well. What sort of thinking do the people on site have? We've heard what they had to say and share with us as well. Well, yes, we've heard from them, and we've heard from the ones in Japan as well. Well, there's time-related issues and health-related issues. Everyone's, of course, considering this possibility, but to what extent are we able to do that? We need to be able to make the necessary considerations as we further consider this possibility.
The person with the shirt, with the glasses. Okada from Mainichi Shimbun newspaper about the investigation and the method taken by this commission. Well, this investigation and also how this commission is operated. Well, compared to other accident investigation commissions, well, in other cases, you have a number of staffs questioning the witness in detail, whereas here, at this open commission meeting, you are not asking about the factual details, but instead focusing more on the thinking behind things or comments, impressions. I think most of the questions are focusing on those types of things. And when it comes to factual confirmation, this commission might be weak. Can I get your observation about that? Well, at this commission, and we have discussed what sort of position we'll be taking. And there are a number of reports, and therefore, we had to think about what sort of position we would give ourselves, and within this limited time and with the limited manpower, what we should be doing. And so it's based on this understanding that we're carrying out this investigation. Could you explain more in detail? Well, what is the positioning of this investigation commission? Well, if I may repeat, within this time and manpower limitation, well, this was started in December, and we have to think about what we could do within these various constraints. That's important. Well, I may be interpreting things, but as for the factual confirmation, is that the responsibility of other investigation committees? And this commission wants to do other things? Well, for example, are you talking about asking about what happened at the time of the accident, etc.? Well, I've been saying this before, but eventually we will hear what had happened inside Fukushima. But what we can do now is not to just focus on that part. But, for example, as I said in the United States the other day, we had the 2-year investigation. The IAEA is also doing something similar. So eventually, I think that they will be investigating this and looking about the effort and return. I think that what we could do as something else more worthwhile.
The person next to the gentleman. I am Miura from Akahata Shimbun, Sunday edition. It's related to what was just asked in terms of figuring out the facts. When we think about seawater injection, Tokyo Electric Power Company was hesitating decommissioning the reactors, it seemed he had said. And the discussions finished. And then he had asked for this seawater injection, but it was page 179 of the report. It said that on the 5th floor in the Prime Minister's office, Mr. Hiraoka, Mr. KAIEDA, and the TEPCO people had assembled. And if you injected the seawater, then the reactors could not be used anymore. So maybe if fresh water could have been used, then it would be used to change to seawater. This was considered, but of course things were delayed. But it was an issue, and this was in the report that was put out by the Commission. However, you didn't really go deep into this, and I wondered about that. Maybe you were being easy on him. Yes, well, I understand what you're saying, but we're not going to be writing about that just based on what you had pointed out. There's a lot of other things that we needed to ask about. That is to say, We are not doing things in an endless manner as far as our commission is concerned. So there are various things, of course, that can be said. And we have those people testify, and we have 10 hours of hearings. And if we don't disclose that, that's not something that we would do. So we are disclosing everything. And the arguments have been sorted out and will continue to be sorted out as well. Well, I'm sure you do have criticisms, and I will be receiving those criticisms as you've levied them against us. Thank you. The person in the back.
Kanda from Gigi. Well, about the points that you've summarized, well, you said this verbally, but the first point that you raised, well, you're saying that you would not focus on one specific cause of the accident, but instead try to look into the accident deeper and more broadly to think about future responses. Well, for example, if you say that the major cause is either tsunami or the earthquake, and if you say that it's the tsunami, well, instead of saying that it's a tsunami or earthquake, you say it could be tsunami or it could be earthquake. And my image is that in the final report you will be providing a number of recommendations. In other words, it's not necessarily the case where, unlike the government investigation commission, my understanding for this commission is that you're trying to come up with recommendations. Well, we want you to look at the end result, and so we wanted to give you a preview as to a final report, and that is the reason why we raised these 5 points. I think it will be posted in our website with some additional explanations as to what we're trying to do. So I hope that you refer to the website.
Yes, the person in the center, please. Raising their hand. I am a Fujita freelance journalist. Today, what had become clear is that communication was very difficult and information was not being shared. When we think about the office that dealt with the accident response, there was this objective to fulfill, to come up with a centralized office, but this did not function. Did that have to do with the personnel, or was it a systemic risk? And was it because of the system that was in place that it did not work out well? What do you think, as chairman of the commission, as far as that question is concerned? I'm sure if you sort through the various statements made, you'll be able to understand that we are trying to further delve into that, and as to what the reasons might have been why the communications did not go well. There might have been limitations there on site. And so we'd like to investigate into that as well. The second person there, please.
Shibata, a scientific journalist, it's not directly related to what has been discussed today, but the government investigation commission is saying that they will not pursue any responsibility. But the fact that it was a major accident, I think it's unthinkable that no criminal charges are brought against any individuals. I think that still we have to rely on the diet commission. But what sort of discussion are you carrying out overall? Could you describe your intention of trying to bring criminal charges against specific individuals? I think I said this at the outset, this is the very first time that we're doing something like this. We have to think about what significance this will have in the legislature and how this value will be shared with the people. I think that whether democracy will function or not is being put to the question here. Well, so that is our thinking, and also in this law, and we have been given certain mandates, and therefore we want to come up with the answers to those mandates that has been delegated to this commission.
One more person. Yes, please. Toyoka from Yomiuri Shimbun. It's going to be redundant, what I'm going to ask. This time is the 17th commission meeting. And it seems as if the answers that you're getting might be the answers that you're seeking. Well, I do think there were several points we were able to get at, and we're looking at the compatibility with the other points that we're trying to collect. And if we collect and sort through all the testimonies, we're trying to see if there is some common ground that could be found. So from that point of view, there are several important points that have come to light, I think. Well then, the second person, please.
Kamide, freelance journalist. Well, this is also redundant, but I have two questions. I think that you said that based on law, you will be asking documents to be submitted. And, people have certain expectations towards this commission. But when I was young, there was a Lockheed incident, the scandal. And I was thinking that things might develop in the same way. But, there are cases in which the media covers a great deal and others not. But given that, I have two questions. Well, about pursuing responsibility, I think I think what's important for us that you make clear the points that you want to clarify. But at the same time, as what the previous questioner was saying, I think it is also important that we see the facts as to what has happened. And the time limit is June, and I would like to see that you come up with a proper final report despite this time constraint. And also the schedule from here and after. What sort of people will be asked to come as witnesses? Can you give me a list of the witnesses who are planned to come? Yes. First, we have to think about the time constraint and think about how to put together a good final report. I think the people at the Secretariat are really exhausted trying to do their work, and we want to come up with something that we would live up to expectation. And we know we cannot do everything, so we had to prioritize. Now, 6 months is the time that's been given to us, you might say that it should be extended, but this is the time that has been given to us. This is the mandate delegated to our commission by the law, and therefore, we believe that the question is to what extent the public feels that what we're doing is important. Well, whenever necessary. I think you should continue with the discussion to expand on what you're doing. Is there such a possibility? Well, yes, Mr. KAIEDA was also saying this, but the parliamentarians, if they think that way, I think that will happen. I think that is another important thing. And why is it that we are doing this for the very first time in the history of the Diet is a big question for me.
Well, it's almost time. There are two other people raising their hands, but we'd like to have one final question asked by the lady there, please. I am Musuba from monthly magazine Current. I'd like to ask about 2 points. With regard to this commission, there's information being transmitted domestically as well as abroad. What sort of impact do you think, Chairman, this has on the audience abroad? And also, the information from abroad. If the commission is understanding that, as the Jikocho Press person had asked about, to utilize as a reference another report that was put out by the commission in the case of such a report being submitted from Japan. As far as the Japanese response is concerned, it needs to be a situation where this is understandable on the part of the foreign audience. I think it depends upon the country you're talking about. The difference between the legislature and the administration, that's something that needs to be understood. And I did say that this was the first time in the National Diet's history, because basically this kind of policy was put together by the administration. So why wasn't this being done before that? I talked about this at the center in May of last year, at the press center. I believe that this kind of process is very important. And it's not just nuclear power, but this kind of activity needs to be conducted in as open a manner as possible. The world is watching us, and the reason we have simultaneous interpretation is so that the world audience can listen and follow our discussions and the testimonies, and the report will be put together, and the executive summary will be something that will further explain the situation and how the audience in Japan domestically and how the foreign audience would receive this is something to be seen. Would that be all right? Have we answered your question? The last question, please.
Well, about the government and private sector, rather than that, there are books, various series, and I think it's hard to try to look through all these materials. And at the same time, we have to think about how much of this information is being communicated overseas. This is another thing that we have to take note of. Maruno from Nishi Nihon Shimbun newspaper. Well, I understand that Mr. Edano is going to be the next witness, but the fact that there are no records being kept at the Nuclear Energy Response Headquarters is a problem, I think. So could I ask the chairman about his observation? And what sort of impact will this have on this commission's investigation? Well, I think that the government was not doing the basics of what they should have been doing. And I think it was Meguriya-san, but I think it's the ABC of administration. They should have been doing that. It's common sense, and I don't think that that is something that they need to be told to do. And if the people share this, I think they will be doing this sort of thing. And as for the mayors, etc., and also the various working groups, with various investigations are being carried out. And within the time constraint that we're talking about, we are thinking as to what should be the focus of our recommendations. So please to understand our constraints. And we're working hard from that perspective, though we don't know whether we can fully respond and live up to your expectation. We thank you for your attendance. And with this, we would like to conclude today's press conference. Thank you. And next will be May 27th, Sunday. Thank you.